as Martin Luther King said, are the promissory note that have allowed the expansion of human freedom in my country. And that's what I'm fighting against. I'm a lifelong liberal, getting to the Fox News question. And so no one, if you go through the list of policies, like I definitely fall, I think still, although the world is changing, on the center left. But what this ideology is about is undermining liberalism. It's undermining the fundamentals that allow a conservative and a liberal to disagree in the first place. I'll answer your last question super quickly. How do we get out of it? I think we get out of it by starting new things. The reason that I self-deported from the New York Times, seems like a crazy thing to do. It's love it or hate it, it's an important newspaper in the world. The reason that I did that, though, is I didn't want to be part of an echo chamber. I didn't want to be part of the thing that I was so uncomfortable with, which is like radicalizing people and making people hate each other more. I want to make people hate each other less. I want to make people have more empathy for one another, to be able to listen to one another. So I feel extremely optimistic. Do I feel optimistic about the old establishment institutions? No. But do I feel optimistic about podcasts and newsletters and all of the things that are coming up now in the world, the new things? I really, really do.
That is a brilliant note to end it on. Your podcast, honestly, I can't wait to hear your conversation with Winston Marshall, a man we've been speaking about on this show, and of course GB News, one of those Newmarket too, Barry Weiss. An absolute pleasure. We'll be back with our panel, Benjamin Butterworth, Carol Malone and Neil Oliver in just a moment. Also coming up, my favourite part of the show, as we'll reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass. But after the break, all of the news making headlines today and in tomorrow's front pages in the media buzz, including why Native Americans are angry at Harry and Meghan.
You want your car in good expertise for spares, repairs and MOTs. You want your annual service ticked off. That's great. And in store, there's batteries fit while you wait. You've not far to go for a garage or store.
That's 750!
But wait, there's more. You want mobile experts to fit tyres on your drive while you relax and...
Take 5.
For all your car needs and none of the fuss. You want Halfords, the name you can trust.
Why buy a brand new car when you can lease? With Select Car Leasing. Visit selectcarleasing.co.uk today.
This is Sophie. She has a meeting with her accountant this afternoon. Carl's VAT return is due. And Dave's just got his quarterly update. Get all relaxed about tax. Tax Assist accountants make things simple so you can focus on growing your business. Go online to find your local Tax Assist shop and switch today. Tax Assist Accountants, your trusted advisor on the High Street.
From falling in love and finding a home, to spending your time making it your own. Perhaps it's just you and your four-legged friend, or maybe you have your savings to spend. A man about town with an apartment in mind, or simply looking for a bigger find. Find out how we can help you along life's journey. With access to all lenders, Flagstone can support you in getting the best mortgage deal to suit your personal needs. Why not give us a call or visit flagstone.co.uk. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
The Sainsbury's quality you expect is now price matched to Aldi. Fresh, juicy strawberries for just £1.10. And thick double cream from British farmers for £8. Find hundreds of Sainsbury's products now price matched to Aldi.
Let's return to the headlines which are breaking right now and tomorrow's news in the Media Buzz. Joining me is tonight's panel, Chief Reporter for the iNewspaper, Benjamin Butterworth, columnist and commentator at the Daily Express, Carol Malone, and GB News presenter Neil Oliver. So let's look at the front pages. Tomorrow's Daily Mail splashes with Bring It On. Javid fights for freedom. The new Health Secretary has declared that the 19th of July must be the end of the line for lockdown. That same story on the front of the Express. They say Mr. Optimism. It's the end of the line for lockdown. Tomorrow's Yorkshire Post is headline Parliament security probe after Hancock CCTV leak. Security reviews have now been launched in Westminster into that link of compromising footage of former Hancock. The front of the Metro. Now Boris rewrites history. The Prime Minister is suggesting that he actually sacked Matt Hancock from the role of Health Secretary, but we know that isn't true because his spokesman said so on Friday. And the Herald leaves with the story that COVID infections in Scotland could surge to more than 100,000 per week by mid-July. This is according to a worst-case scenario modelled by scientists for the Scottish governments. But those worst-case scenarios often don't come true. We also know that now. The Guardian leads with the headline, Ministers to end isolation for pupils in England. Hundreds of thousands of students will no longer automatically have to isolate after a contact with a positive case when schools return in September. Hallelujah for that. And that same story on the front page of tomorrow's Daily Telegraph. Their headline, End the Madness of Isolating Children. And the new Children's Commissioner has called for bubbles and self-isolation at schools to be scrapped. The Sun looks ahead to the Euros tomorrow night with the headline, Come on, Harry, even Hancock scored. England will play Germany tomorrow at Wembley in the last 16 of the Euros. Now, the BBC's Emily Maitlis has been reprimanded for sharing a clearly controversial tweet by Piers Morgan. The tweet criticised the government's handling of the pandemic in February. It read, if failing to quarantine properly is punishable by 10 years in prison, what is the punishment for failing to properly protect the country from a pandemic? It was removed by Maitlis 10 minutes after she posted it, but the BBC's complaints unit said she breached editorial guidelines by failing to provide surrounding context to ensure impartiality. Carol Malone, what does Emily Maitlis not get about working at the BBC? Because time and again, she seems to break the impartiality guidelines. She should come and work for GB News.
She does not get what the BBC is all about. Get clear that it's funded by the public. She doesn't get that she's a presenter and she's not there because of where she works to give an opinion. We're here in a place where presenters can give opinions. That's their job. That is not her job. And she keeps doing it. And, you know, she keeps doing it because the BBC keeps saying, oh, this is terrible, she shouldn't be doing. But then they don't really reprimand her. They just let her carry on. And I just think, you know, she must be laughing up her sleeve. She's being reprimanded, but what does that actually mean? It means nothing to her massive salary. It means nothing to her future. It means nothing to her position at the BBC. So, you know, there's no point in saying people shouldn't be. The BBC have just got to give up this ghost now of pretending to be impartial because they're not.
Tim Davie, Benjamin Butterworth, the new Director General, made a song and dance about the fact it didn't matter how senior you were, it didn't matter how famous you were, they were really going to crack down. No misuse of social media was going to be acceptable. Well, Emily Maitlis has made a mockery of that, and perhaps the BBC's response to Emily Maitlis making a mockery of that has made a mockery of them.
No. I mean, this proves his point that everyone to the same rules, because Emily Maitlis is about as famous and as well known as they get at the BBC. You know, I think she was wrong to retweet this without context. But for me, this shows just what a great institution the BBC is, because they had the guts to hold one of the most famous presenters to account.
Please.
And also, by the way, of course, there's a great irony in this, is that...
How have they held it to account? They haven't.
Because they publicly...
She's had a bit of a reprimand.
They publicly criticised.
Well, she hasn't been taken off air.
No.
She hasn't had her pay cut. She hasn't been given a warning. Yes, for this, Benjamin.
This is not the first time she's done this.
We know she hates this government. Emily Maitlis hates this government. She's proved it during that rant on Newsnight. She proves it by that retweet. And Neil Oliver, how are we expected to get non-biased and partial news from the BBC when their flagship presenter keeps tweeting like this?
pretend anymore, because every time, and you know, Gary Lineker was told when Davis came to the BBC, all the big presenters, all the highly paid presenters,
But he's not
were
an
told
employee.
not to. Well, technically, but he's still on the screens, and he's still there, and he's still broadcasting.
I think Lineker's use of social media is highly inappropriate, given he works for the BBC. But what I will say about Lineker is he is not a news presenter. The difference with Emily Maitlis, Benjamin, is this is a woman who is on election nights. She is meant to be an impartial broadcaster for the BBC, and she's not.
Emily Maitlis is one of the best broadcasters this country has.
She is, but she lets herself down by doing
She's an
this.
outstanding journalist. She criticises and holds politicians to account in a brilliant way. You know, I mean, I don't recommend people watch it because this is much better, but she's excellent at her job. And, you know, the idea is that this is part of an agenda to undermine the BBC from some outlets that can commercially benefit from the BBC no longer
But
being
it is not. It is not.
They're meant to be impartial. Tim Davie said he was going to crack down on social media use to protect the BBC's impartiality. That's what this is about.
And that's what he's done, and that's what this proves. You know, the idea that we shouldn't have Emily Maitlis on the screen because of a 10-minute retweet, and that retweet,
It's
you know,
not
it said,
just
if
this retweet.
if failing to quarantine properly is punishable by 10 years in prison, what is the punishment for failing to properly protect the country from a pandemic? What was you put to a politician?
What was the monologue she gave?
There was a huge. Well, there were.
What was the monologue
There were
that she
two
gave about
monologues that were
Cummings?
both considered to be highly inappropriate and political at the start of Newsnight. But look, an exclusive in The Sun today exposing that Native Americans fear Harry and Meghan are irrigating their gardens with what they regard as holy water. The couple's £11 million Californian mansion is built on land that once belonged to the Chumash tribe. There are several hot and cold springs nearby, and tribe leader Eleanor Fishburne said it should not be used to irrigate their gardens. So according to her, for us, this water is a pure water, a holy water, and a ceremonial water. Now, Carol, here's the thing. Usually I'd say, bog off, leave these people alone. It's their house.
Not Meghan and Harry.
But this is Meghan and Harry.
This is the wokest, one or two of the wokest people on the planet.
They need to meet with this tribe, Carol.
Lecturing us all of the time about what we should be doing, read the climate, whatever. And there they are using this water from hot and cold springs to irrigate their plants. It'll be very interesting to see how quickly they respond to this, and if they issue an apology to this tribe, and if they stop using the water. I suspect
And they need another water supply. Doesn't
yes.
matter. They've got millions. They can afford it.
Exactly.
Carol Malone, Benjamin Butterworth, and hopefully we'll get Neil Oliver back as the Media Buzz continues after the break with more front pages as they drop. And after a 10-year break from our screens, The Weakest Link is back, but without the Queen of Mean, Anne Robinson. Comedian Ramesh Ranganathan will be the new host, but is that really the right decision? Also on the way, we'll reveal today's Union Jack has and Greatest Britain. Back soon.
Friday's Euro Millions can make 20 UK winners' dreams come true. Not that dream, this one. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Play on app, online and in-store.
Getting a deal at affordablemobiles.co.uk can feel incredible. Feel the deal. Feel it. Feel the deal today with affordablemobiles.co.uk.
Say hello to the latest in flexible family holidays. The Ford Transit Custom Nugget offers compact dimensions with great possibilities. It's packed with innovative technology to give you everything you need. And whilst the space on the inside is amazing, wait until you see the space outside. Are you ready to escape to the wild? To start your journey, visit AM Philip Truck Tech, Scotland's Ford Transit Custom Nugget dealer.
This is Sophie. She has a meeting with her accountant this afternoon. Carl's VAT return is due. And Dave's just got his quarterly update. Get all relaxed about tax. Tax Assist accountants make things simple so you can focus on growing your business. Go online to find your local Tax Assist shop and switch today. Tax Assist Accountants, your trusted advisor on the High Street.
I've always loved Muller Corner. Now I've created my own. and filled it with love. It's my way of saying, love you, Mum and Dad. Try my new Muller Corner creations. Peel back and love.
Welcome back to Tonight Live. More in the Media Buzz now with our panel, Benjamin Butterworth, Carol Malone and Neil Oliver. The Times newspaper leading with the story that pupils face a total ban on mobile phone use. Education Secretary Gavin Williamson has announced that he used that classroom ban, which seems to me like a good idea. And the Daily Mirror leading with the headline, Heroes. Tomorrow night, England are set to play Germany at Wembley in the quest for Euro glory. I don't know if we can see that Mirror front page, but it does feature three of the players. And Carol, just wanted to take a moment because it's a very, very dark and sad day for the Daily Mirror. That newspaper's brilliant executive editor, Peter Willis, has died. And for people who haven't heard of Peter Willis outside of the Mirror, he made a real influence, didn't he, by creating the amazing Pride of Britain Awards?
Yeah, well, I've known Peter Willis since I was a kid, you know. We were kind of 20-odd and we've always been around the same papers together, and he was a very, very special man, always a very smiley, cheerful man. Every experience I've ever had with him was cheerful and nice and warm. He always used to take the mickey out of me, of course, all of the time about everything. But I mean, that is our job, and he will be missed hugely. He leaves a wife and children who must be devastated this evening. And if they're watching or if their relatives are, I send them my love, and I'm deeply sorry.
I know he was a good man. He was a kind man. He is going to be so missed, but in the Pride of Britain Awards, he leaves a legacy to be proud of. Yes. So, Peter Willis. The Weakest Link returned to our screens, but without the Queen of Mean, Anne Robinson. The new host is comedian Romesh Ranganathan. Anne, of course, launched today as the new host of Countdown. That's not Romesh Ranganathan. I was going to come to this in just a moment, but you've blown my cover. That's our very own Benjamin Butterworth.
With big hair.
Who was a contestant on The Weakest Link. How old were you then, Benjamin?
I was 18.
Let's have a look at it. So a few years ago. Now, what I find so extraordinary about woke snowflakes like yourself, Mr. Butterworth, is that you went on The Weakest Link knowing full well that Anne Robinson was going to tear you to pieces, because that's what The Weakest Link was about, and that's where everyone signed up. All of these years on, you've done what woke people do, you've done what snowflakes do, Robinson, and said it was disgusting. But my question to you, Benjamin, is surely you knew when you were going on The Weakest Link that Anne Robinson was going to tear you apart, because that was the whole point of the show and it was the fun of the show.
Look, I wasn't afraid of having a fight on screen with Anne Robinson, right? I watched that programme as a kid. I loved it. Did you do the celebrity version?
I did the celebrity. She ripped me apart, let me tell you. But anyway.
But you know what? I did that, and I got it the day after I got my A-level results. So I'd had a pretty scary 48 hours, and I had no problem with that. And she's completely in character when she films it. So there's no pipe chat off camera. But for me, what was unfair was that I was a teenager. As it happened, I was out as gay to my family and to my friends by that point, but they didn't know that for sure. And during the filming, in something that didn't make it to the final cut, she basically pushed me to reveal my sexuality. And I think at the time, I was so excited to be on The Weakest Link, but actually with hindsight, that was completely inappropriate. And I think we look bad at things like that, and Anne Robinson and the production staff, they should be ashamed about that, because they pushed me.
Benjamin, it didn't run. It didn't run. Is that right? And I've read an interview with her over the past week, Carol, where she said if she ever felt that she slightly crossed a line, she would say to the production staff afterwards, don't include that in the show.
I think that's true. I mean, she pushed me beyond. I mean,
what did she say to you? Go on.
Well, I mean, she was just hideous. She was just hideous about everything. And she pushed me, but she pushed me because she knew I would fight back. And I did fight back. And I was partnered with Paul Ross. And she just kept on taking the mick out of the papers I worked for, stories I'd written. And I remember having said to her before, I said to her once when I was interviewing her, how did you get so rich? And she said, oh, don't be so stupid. If you want to get rich, you can get rich. I mean, she did it to me even in private, never mind on the television. But I completely respect Anne Robinson. She's of a different generation, as I am, but she tells it like it is. She's the original teller like it is. And I would hope she would never change. That is upsetting for you, but as Dan says, it never went on air. But you must have perhaps given them a hint as to your sexuality. Oh, yeah. Or it would never have been brought up. You kind of
they did
put that out there.
As many of these programmes which are well put together do, they did a long interview beforehand. So, I discussed my sexuality.
But why are you crying about it all of these years later? Anne Robinson didn't traumatise you.
To be fair, he's not crying.
Well, I wasn't crying. I wrote...
He's writing a woke-topian sob-fest article about how Anne Robinson ruined his life.
She didn't ruin my life.
Did you say that?
She didn't ruin my life. He's exaggerating. This is tabloid journalism. I wrote a column about what she'd done, and it hadn't aired, and I think that showed that they knew they went too far.
But as Dan says, that's what that was about. You went on there to be insulted by Anne Robinson.
And I was.
And her genius was, she wanted to see if she could make you cry.
Yeah.
I was on with Paul Ross, who, by the way, is a genius, and I did well because of him, his brain. But she just unmercifully, there were two people on there who were, one person who had been having an affair with somebody for a very long time in our profession. She said it on air. She exposed it.
Yeah, but that's the point, though, Carol. You don't agree to go on a show like that if you don't want to be torn to shreds, and you don't want her to reveal things about your life.
There were no red lines with her.
Vanessa Feltz, the TV presenter, radio presenter, was asked about how she got so many gorgeous black boyfriends. Right? and she felt very uncomfortable about that. She revealed that in an interview with me a couple of months ago.
Yeah, but I've also read Anne Robinson's response to Vanessa Feltz, who said, well, she didn't seem to have any problem about it at the time. And Anne Robinson, and God bless you for this, Anne, she's unapologetic about it. She doesn't back down. She doesn't buy into this cancel culture. She's not embarrassed about anything she said back then. And you know what? There's a growing trend that I think is really disturbing of taking old television moments and taking them completely out of context and trying to shame the people who were involved at the time. I've seen it happen with Friends. I've seen it happen with The X Factor. I've seen it happen with The Weakest Link. I think Weakest Link, Benjamin, might as well be the wokest link because Ramesh Ranganathan, who might be a great comedian, he's not going to take anyone down, is he? Which is the whole point of the show.
He's a very funny man. I mean, he makes me laugh out loud, but he is not going to embarrass anyone. Anne would embarrass you at your lack of knowledge about things. And for me, that's like so easy. My lack of knowledge on everything. It was so easy to pull me apart. But, she took a joy in that. And in many ways, if you're going to go on a show and question your general knowledge, shame on you if you haven't got the knowledge. I was one of the people that didn't have the knowledge.
I mean,
so it was easy.
About this new woke version of The Weakest Link, the wokest link, I'm calling it.
It's a depressing prospect, what you're describing. The whole point, as I'm sure you've covered, of The Weakest Link was being frightened of Anne Robinson. It was the vicarious thrill or the Schadenfreude, I suppose, of watching and seeing who it was that she was going to be cruelest to. That was the point of the show. That was its unique selling point. She was its unique selling point. It was quite frightening and unnerving to watch, given that it was a broadcast in the context of light entertainment. She made the show, and I think there is just a sad, sterilizing drift towards comedy and all sorts of light entertainment now that is neither one thing nor the other. It's just anodyne and bland. And there seems no point to it. If you're going to bring back The Weakest Link, bring it back with someone fierce.
Yeah, indeed. Finally, want to show you this. Serena Williams has taken on the fashion industry, but I'm not sure if I'm on board. So this is her new COVID dress. And the idea is that it actually combines the fashionable dress with a built-in mask. Carol, a good practical idea?
That is about as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike. It's useless. That's going to stop no virus getting through. It's pointless and useless. And whatever the message she's putting out there is, I don't want to wear a mask. That's all. Simple as that.
Benjamin, what do you make of it?
I mean, I'm no expert on women's clothing, I'll confess to you, but I think it's a bit strange, and also I wonder how scientifically tested that is. To just pull it up and then pull it off and fold it back into your neck, and it's sort of all the germs go out everywhere. Yeah, it doesn't strike me as a very wise idea. I think it might have a little bit more to do with dollar and publicity than it does with science.
Yeah, you don't need a mask these days, though, do you? You just need a face covering. Hopefully, after next month, we're not going to need any of those things. But Benjamin Butterworth, Carol Malone, Neil Oliver, do stand by, because coming up, it is the moment when we reveal our greatest Britain and Union Jackass. So stay with us.
You know what they say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So go on Sky Q customers, pick up your Sky remote and say Get Discovery Plus, and get 12 months of Discovery Plus at no extra cost. Get brand new, exclusive, can't see them anywhere else Discovery Plus originals, get unmissable, bingeable box sets, and get jaw-dropping real-life entertainment. But you don't get any hidden costs, and you don't get tied into a rolling contract. Get Discovery Plus for 12 months at no extra cost with Sky Q. Say Get Discovery Plus into your voice remote or visit sky.com/Discovery Plus.
Say hello to the latest in flexible family holidays. The Ford Transit Custom Nugget offers compact dimensions with great possibilities. It's packed with innovative technology to give you everything you need. And whilst the space on the inside is amazing, wait until you see the space outside. Are you ready to escape to the wild? To start your journey, visit AM Philip Truck Tech, Scotland's Ford Transit Custom Nugget dealer.
From falling in love and finding a home to spending your time making it your own. Perhaps it's just you and your four-legged friend, or maybe you have your savings to spend. A man about town with an apartment in mind, or simply looking for a bigger find. Find out how we can help you along life's journey. With access to all lenders, Flagstone can support you in getting the best mortgage deal to suit your personal needs. Why not give us a call or visit flagstone.co.uk. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
You want your car in good hands with expertise for spares, repairs and MOTs. You want your annual service ticked off. That's great. And in store, there's batteries fit while you wait. You've not far to go for a garage or store.
That's 750!
But wait, there's more. You want mobile experts to fit tyres on your drive while you relax and...
Take 5.
For all your car needs and none of the fuss. You want Halfords, the name you can trust.
Welcome back. Thank you for your company today. It is time for Britons and Union Jackass. So, Neil Oliver, who's your greatest Briton? Who are you celebrating?
Every single one of those hundreds of thousands that marched through London on Saturday demanding the end of lockdown and the return of freedoms. That's in the grand tradition of British protest. I only wish it might have been 1 million or 10 million strong, but every single one of them is a great Britain as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, very good point. I agree. Carol, your greatest Britain?
Mine's on a much smaller scale. This is Wimbledon. Captain Sir Tom's 2 daughters are going to be guests of honours at Wimbledon this year, and this is thanks to the chairman of the All England Club, a guy called Ian Hewitt. He has invited 100 frontline heroes to various matches during Wimbledon fortnight. So these are vaccine scientists, doctors, nurses, teachers, all these people are included. And I just think that's a fantastic thing to do. These are people who probably wouldn't be able to buy a Wimbledon ticket to save their lives, no context, probably couldn't afford it. This is a fantastic thing. And Sir Tom's daughters are going to be guests of honour, which is also a very fitting tribute to the man who raised 40 million for the NHS. So him and all of them are my heroes.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Nice.
Benjamin?
Well, mine is quite similar. You see, mine is links to Wimbledon, but my greatest Britain is John. I don't know his surname, but he gave me my second dose of the Pfizer vaccine at the Science Museum yesterday. So he's given me a good dead arm today. And I managed to get it just 3 weeks after my first.
So it was your second dose?
I did.
And you're feeling good. And that's interesting because Pfizer, you're actually meant to have stronger side effects. So clearly they didn't hit you at all.
Exactly. I made a tough stuff, evidently. But I got it 3 weeks after the first. And given we need to get those 2 jabs to get unlocked, I was absolutely delighted. Because we saw at Wimbledon today, if you've seen the clip, Dame Sarah Gilbert, the woman who invented the AstraZeneca vaccine. This really made me well up because she's there at centre court in the royal box, and my God, I'm glad to have people like Carol mentioned in that royal box instead of actual royals this year.
Exactly.
And there she was, and it was so natural because everyone starts applauding when they say the name of the scientists, and then everyone gets up and gives her a standing ovation, and it's so natural and warm and British, and it just made me really emotional. I thought it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, no, indeed. It really, really was. It was absolutely lovely. OK, Neil, your union jackass today.
Well, it has to be Matt Hancock. Just the most disastrous failure across the board. I've been infuriated to the point of spitting tacks at the screen about anything and everything that Matt Hancock's been doing for months. Just a disastrous individual. And, he even managed to make being in a clinch with a woman look bad. It was such a throwback to the scenes that I remember from school discos as an adolescent. There was just even something pitiful and adolescent about the way he went about that. So, without a shadow of a doubt, for me, the jackass of the year is Matt Hancock.
Yeah, I think he's going to be pretty hard to top somehow. Benjamin Butterworth, your jackass.
Well, do you know, mine is... I've put this on my Twitter, at Benjamin Butterworth. It's emerged this evening. But Chris Whitty, the chief scientist, has been abused for a second time at least from what we've seen. And 2 guys are seen...
Is there a video of it?
There is a video, and it's 2 guys, I think they're on the Mall in central London, and they grab and put their arms around Chris Whitty. They are supposedly doing it in a playful way. He's going to get out of the headlock they've got him, and he looks very distressed. And you know what? I agree with Chris Whitty. You disagree with him. But I tell you what, there is nothing OK about some of those people out there who have thought it is all right to physically or verbally accost some of the scientists who are damn good at what they do and provide the evidence, and it's for politicians to decide. And I think it's about time, frankly, that some of those politicians, some of those scientists had some kind of police protection, because they're in a dangerous position and there are nutters out there and unpleasant people who want their moment of social media. So for me, my jackass is those 2 people who went and did that to Chris Whitty.
No, I think that's repeat what I said when there were similar scenes surrounding Nick Watt, the Newsnight reporter who was physically threatened. Actually, by doing that to public figures, you're undermining your own cause. That is not how you win an argument in Great Britain. It really isn't. And whatever you think of Christopher Whitty's policies, he's clearly worked incredibly hard over the past year, and he deserves safety and he deserves to be left alone when he's out in public. So I think, I'm sure you agree, Carol, that's just despicable.
Completely.
I haven't seen the video, but it sounds shocking.
We've all had disagreements about entitled to walk along the street without being abused or accosted, so it's shocking. And, have they got these people? I don't know if they've been arrested or not, but they should make a point of finding out who they are. Because if we don't stop them, they're going to keep on doing it.
Totally.
So they've got to be...
Your union jackass, Carol?
Well, mine is a lot lighter, a lot less important than all that, but it's Elton John, actually. So
what's he done to you today?
Well, he's doing a whole lot of farewell concerts still. He's still saying farewell since 2008.
Well, they were delayed because of the pandemic.
That's true, yes. But the punters, you can get an Elton John VIP package, and punters are being asked to stump up 1,000 to meet. You don't get to meet him or anything. You get a picture of yourself with his piano. You get a letter, a welcome letter. You get a gift bag, a drawing, and it says, Tim might well have this rule. It says you can keep your own chair. Now, we're wondering how you're going to get home on the tube with the chair. But whatever, it's not worth that much money. So I just think a bloke who's got a fortune of 375 million should not be charging 1,200 quid for VIP packages that don't include meeting him. And frankly, even if it did include meeting him, it's still not worth 1,200 quid.
What a brilliant panel tonight. Carol Malone, Benjamin Butterworth, Neil Oliver, thank you so much. My greatest Britain is Anne Robinson, partly because she roasted Benjamin Butterworth on air, but partly because she's just saying she's not going to let this woke come and make her feel bad about what she did years ago on The Weakest Link. To me, The Weakest Link will not work without her. And my Union Jackass tonight is Emily Maitlis. I actually agree with Carol and Benjamin. She is one of the best live broadcasters we have in this country. She's a talented woman, but she lets herself and the BBC down by constantly breaking the rules of impartiality on social media. It's not what Tim Davies said he expected of their presenters, and I think he needs to take action. Thank you so much for your company tonight. Tomorrow from 9. Do remember Great British Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Neil. 5 years ago today, the country voted in a referendum to leave the European Union. The result surprised most of the media and shocked the British political elite. It was not meant to happen. Those who voted to remain struggled to come to terms with the result. Some refused, calling for a rematch. Those who campaigned to leave quickly discovered that divorce was not as simple as they'd made out or as cheap. Suddenly matters that neither side had much bothered to address in the referendum campaign, from the Northern Ireland border to the multi-billion-pound lump sum Britain would have to pay to leave, took centre stage. British politics entered a miserable period of drift and dither, made even worse when Theresa May's cack-handed 2017 election campaign threw away the Tory majority. There were times when it seemed that Brexit might not happen at all. The sorry saga only came to an end when Boris Johnson won by an unexpected landslide in December 2019. Brexit would happen after all, but we didn't finish the transition until this January, a gruelling 4.5 years after we'd voted to leave. The Brexit die is cast, even if the arguments continue. The impact of the pandemic has made it harder for either side to point to clear economic pluses or minuses. But what is crystal clear is that Brexit has remodelled British politics. How you voted in the referendum started to influence how you vote. Leavers were more inclined to vote Tory, Remainers Labour, whatever their previous party affiliations. In the process, that changed the electoral map of England. Northern towns, which had been Labour for generations, suddenly went Tory. Labour tightened its grip on the metropolitan cities. Poorer, less affluent voters became more inclined to vote Conservative. Middle-class white-collar workers backed Labour, especially if they worked in the public sector. The idea of the Tories as the party of the posh South and Labour as the party of the workers, especially northern workers, a major realignment of voting loyalties was taking place, and the process is still going on, as you can see from the recent local election and by-election results. Excuse me. Where it ends, we don't know, but thanks to Brexit, British politics will never be the same again. And that's tonight's Viewpoint. With me now, Professor Matthew Goodwin, who's long studied the trends which have led us to where we are now. We hope you'll be a regular face here on GB News, and of course our very own Tom Harwood. Matthew Goodwin, let me come to you first. Am I right? Has Brexit led to or put rocket boosters under a realignment in British politics?
Well, I think it has, Andrew, as you alluded in your opening piece, that we've seen a complete transformation of British politics. We have seen new groups rallying around the Conservative Party, the pro-Brexit Conservative Party, and we've seen other groups rallying around the Labour Party. And this is something that we've not really seen before in British politics. In the old days, class and income were the major predictors of how people would vote. Today, it's education and age, and that's a reflection of the new role of values in British politics. And I think that we are on the cusp of a new era, if you like, in British politics, and Brexit has has brought that to the surface.
So traditional voting patterns where if you were more affluent, you tended, it's only a tendency, but you tended to vote Conservative. If you were less affluent, you tended to vote Labour. That's gone. That's nothing like it was.
Well, as many of our models would suggest, prior to 2016, people's income, people's social class would predict how they would vote at a general election. After the referendum in 2016, none of that mattered. New era of British politics. And I would argue, Andrew, that we have seen a seismic disruption from the classic era in British politics. The classic era was about left and right. The new era is about cosmopolitan. Do you support European Union membership? Do you support mass immigration? Do you support globalization, big, international trends? Or are you a traditionalist? Do you think that the nation state should be the primary unit of analysis? Do you think that actually we should have, strong families, strong nations, and so on? That fault line has rushed to the surface over the last 5 years. And that's why Boris Johnson, of course, has been able to rally 40% plus in the opinion polls, rally the largest majority since Theresa May, since Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s, because we are in the midst of this much broader realignment of British politics.
So two things, Matthew. One, from what you say, the Tory capture of a big chunk of the Red Wall in Japan is part of a trend. And it's a trend and a process that is still underway. We're not near the end yet.
Well, I think we still have a long way to go. If you look at the Hartlepool by-election, the Conservatives winning that seat for the first time since Cliff Richard was number one with Living Doll in 1950 something, and the first time since the Conservatives have won that seat since Ben Hur was in the cinema. The Red Wall has fallen. The bigger Red Wall is still to fall. That's the crucial point.
What is that, Matthew? What is the bigger
Labour
Red Wall?
Party has lost a chunk of the Red Wall. There is a much bigger section of the Red Wall that could still fall. And that, to me, really raises an intriguing question, which is, do the Conservatives want to lean into this realignment, embrace what is happening in British politics, not only win Hartlepool, but win Yvette Cooper's seat, win Dan Jarvis's seat, win John Healey's seat, big Labour, front bench ministers, prominent politicians, while accepting that they may lose seats in the South. And Andrew, the one thing that I've been struck by over the last week is a lot of talk about the blue wall. The blue wall is too small to give the Labour Party a return back to power.
The blue wall being the Tory seats in the home counties.
The blue wall in the South, full of university graduates, middle-class professionals, etc., is too small to bring the Labour Party back to power. The Labour Party cannot return to power unless the Labour Party win the northern Red Wall seats. If the Conservatives lean into this realignment, there is no path back for the Labour Party at the next election. And the Labour Party know that.
Now, before I bring Tom in, I want you to look at how this realignment is changing the parties themselves. I'll start with the Tories and then move on to Labour. Because if you're more and more dependent or getting more and more votes from the Red Wall, from northern towns and northern country areas and so on, and fewer from the home counties, you're not really the party of limited government, Thatcherite, free market economics. These are voters that want quite big government. They want government to do more for their areas. They want government to give their kids a better education. They want government to bring some prosperity back to their towns and so on. It changes, or at the very least, I would suggest, creates tensions within the Conservative Party.
I think that's spot on. I think if you look at the 1990s and the 2000s, the winning formula in politics was economic liberalism and cultural liberalism. It was let's the borders, let's get with globalization. The era that we're in now is the opposite of that to some extent. It is, let's use the state to intervene a little bit more. Let's try and make things a bit fairer for people. Let's do more for left behind regions, left behind towns. Let's help the working class in a more proactive way. But let's also deliver Brexit. Let's reform immigration. Let's be culturally conservative. And the new winning formula, I think, Andrew, is lean left on the economics, lean right on culture. Now, if you're a conservative, that is a radical departure from the era of Margaret Thatcher. It is a radical departure. Now, if you're willing to accept that, well, the rewards are huge. The rewards are Northern England, potentially Wales, industrial towns that have not historically voted for the Conservative Party. The risks and the costs of that strategy are clear. You will lose parts of southern England. You will lose parts of the commuter belt. Now, this is ultimately a decision for Boris Johnson. Are you willing to push through that realignment? And if you are, my calculations would suggest that actually that would give you a significant degree of time in power.
And for the Labour Party, I think we can see part of Keir Starmer's problem there is that it's very difficult to ride the two horses of the metropolitan Labour Party of London and Manchester and so on, which is socially liberal and politics and so on. And on the other hand, with the residual working class vote that Labour still has a big chunk of, as you said, it's quite hard to satisfy these two groups. And that's a fundamental problem for Labour now. It's not an easy coalition anymore.
Well, I think we fall into the trap of looking at the Labour Party and thinking this is a unique problem for the Labour Party. The problem is social democracy, an ideology that was founded for the 20th century when the dominant drivers of politics were about class and income. That's all gone, Andrew, that's gone. We are in the 21st century. The dominant drivers of politics right now are culture and identity. So that means, well, how does democracy adapt to that? And the big lesson from Britain is that it's struggling to adapt to that. It's lost 4 elections in a row, including the worst election defeat since 1935. It is torn between professional middle-class voters who are culturally liberal and working-class voters who are culturally conservative. And that is what has split the Labour Party. So when we talk about the realignment of British politics, let's be absolutely clear. The realignment is an asymmetrical realignment, which is a complicated way of saying it's helping the right and it's hurting the left, because the Labour Party is being attacked on two sides, by the Greens and the Liberal Democrats and by the Conservatives, who are those working class voters. And for the Conservatives, it's one way, right? It's reaching into the Conservative voters, pulling over those voters who traditionally voted for the left. And this is why I think for the next 10, 20 years, it's going to be so difficult for centre-left social democracy to get back in the game. And this isn't only about Britain. This is across Europe.
No, you see social democratic parties in trouble all over Europe. Indeed, the Swedish Prime Minister, and you don't get more social democratic than Sweden social democrats, has just lost a vote of confidence, and Swedish politics now in some chaos, as they are too. The French Socialist Party in real trouble too. The German Social Democrats in deep decline. The Italian Socialist Party also in trouble. Tom, as you speak to the Tories and deal with the Tories on a day-to-day basis, do you begin to see signs of, because they're in a transition period, and do you see some tensions between let me call them the home counties, the southern Tories, who tend to be middle to upper middle class, public school educated, and the new red wall